at the very beginning, we start with an apple. So we start with some object, a digital asset. It could be a JPEG. It could be a PDF file, whatever it may be. It could be a product with a SKU number. You've got some kind of asset, some document, some thing in inventory, whatever it may be. And this is our object. And our business, or at least a part of our business, is going to be based around this object. So this is the findability problem. People are trying to find Apple, use Apple, document Apple. You're trying to get Apple through workflow. And so you start with that. And if we stop to think, hey, what is an apple? How do we think about an apple? We use metadata to describe it. Very straightforward idea, right? We give it a name. We give it some adjectives. We talk about it. So, for example, I have Malus. Malus is the italicized genus. So if you had the official Latin name for apple, it's Malus, right? We can talk about the quality of the peel. We can talk about where apples are manufactured. 50% of apple growing takes place in China, in the world today. We can talk about the vitamins that are in an apple. It has vitamin C, a good source of vitamin C. What do you know? So we know something about this apple. And within our business, we have our SMEs and we have our customer opinions. And we pay attention to the metadata that matters to us. And of course, eventually we end up with another asset. In this case, we have an orange. And in the same way, we know things about the orange. We know what color it is. You'll notice here it's a citrus. That's where the term comes from the Latin. We know what it's made. We know that 18% of them come out of Brazil. And we know not only does it have vitamin C, but it's also high in vitamin A. And we start noticing a pattern. We start saying, hey, this asset on the left and this asset on the right, there's a pattern here. And the pattern is in the way we choose to describe the metadata. Sure enough, they both have names. They both have colors. They both have a Latin genus. They both have vitamins or lack of vitamins. And so as we think about the similarities between our documents, between our products, between our assets, and we develop these models, we use the model as the foundation for our metadata. And so this is what you can call as a metadata model or a metadata schema. We have this thing, we're going to call it fruit. And we're going to define all fruit as having some kind of vitamin content, a Latin name, a skin texture. It's going to have some kind of color, some kind of eating experience, and of course it's going to have a name. So if you think of this now as the metadata schema, this is what's under the hood. If you do any work in SharePoint, this is the content model. If you do any work in product information management with PIM systems, you're talking in some cases about the class, right? This is the model. This is the foundation. So all of the terminology and all of the structure, right, we haven't really talked about that yet. We haven't talked about anything about navigation, about user experience. We're starting right down at the essence of what these things are, and that's the schema. I consider this part of a taxonomy project. Strategically, you might not call it taxonomy, but you can't really have taxonomy without an understanding of your schema. Once you've got your schema in place, now taxonomy starts to kick in. You say, okay, you have this thing here called eating experience. What kind of values would you tag a fruit with when you're describing its eating experience? It's bitter or it's bland. Okay, you're describing colors for your fruit. What kind of colors do you want to allow? So you could say red. And where taxonomy comes in is that you start to govern these values. So you could leave it as a big open field and type in anything that you want. So I could call it dappled red with hints of green. And that would be great, except it's an uncontrolled value. If I want to run my business using metadata, I don't want to leave everything to chance, to editorial opinion, to the imagination of my subject matter expert. I'd like to provide some structure. So I'm going to choose the color red. I'm not going to allow crimson. Nope, it's got to be red. What about scarlet? No. What about rosy pink? No, it's red. Colors, by the way, is like the go-to example when it comes to attributes. But you can see other examples here. So, in the case of country, obviously I'm going to define my countries according to an external standard of proper country name. My vitamins, well, I can get this list of vitamins. I can go to an external source like the USDA, and I could get the formal names of vitamins from there. In some cases, I may turn out, seedless is just a yes/no value. I don't have to manage that in taxonomy because it's Boolean. But again, the idea here is I'm looking at the different values that I can use with my schemas. And those are the two sides of the coin on the taxonomy project. So I've got assets on the left. I've got my SKUs. I've got my document IDs. I've got people. I've got transactions. Whatever it is my system is supposed to manage and pay attention to. And each one of those is tagged with values. The values that I use to tag come out of the taxonomy, and the values that I need to apply are based on the schema. So what you're looking at right here, if you want to think of it as the three-legged stool, I've got my assets, my schemas, and my words. Right? That is the core of a taxonomy project.